Hey guys, welcome back to the dungeon. Today we're going to sort of feed off of my last video, which sort of talked about distance, position, and preparation for throwing a punch. So we're going to sort of move on with that and essentially talk about a punch. Most people will think that a punch is really just a punch, but again, without having the proper position, proper mobility to get you into position to throw a punch, any old punch is not going to do. Within most martial arts or most fighting arts, there are a number of different punches. There's the regular sort of jab for boxing, there's the cross, there's an uppercut, there's a hook, there's the old drunken man's haymaker type, rash swing. There's the sort of Wing Chun, which we'll call maybe like a sun fist punch, which starts in this vertical position straight up, or straight out rather. And all of these punches are great punches if made from the right position. One of the issues with sort of a jab is this structure of the body is very weak. For a boxer, a jab, a cross, an uppercut, and a hook is great because a boxer only needs to be worried about his opponent's hands. There are no elbows in boxing, there are no knees in boxing, there are no kicks in boxing. So even from the perspective of a position, a fighting position, or a stance, a boxer really only has to worry about from here, their belly or their midsection, up to the top of their head. If a boxer happens to turn like this, you can't punch a boxer in the back of the head. So, a boxer's stance is really made for that specific art, or a boxer's actions, punching, what have you, are really made for that specific scenario. If you take a boxer and you put it in a completely different world of, let's say, wrestling, where it's takedowns, it's single leg takedown, double leg takedowns, going behind the person, picking up and throwing them on the floor. A boxer's punches, while yes, they may certainly, if he's fast enough and strong enough, be able to defend himself, but once you're on the ground, a boxer is very limited in terms of being able to deal with certain types, many types of wrestling and grappling action. So with a punch, with a straight jab, part of the issue is if my opponent happens to not be a boxer, or happens to be a grappler, happens to be a Wing Chun man, happens to be somebody of an art that does not throw this punch because there are many flaws in this, then I'm in trouble. Because here, he could easily push in my elbow, pull here, and snap my arm, put me in an arm lock, break my elbow. From here, I'm all open. This entire side is open from a boxing standpoint. It's completely open. If this person slips, or bobs and weaves, or ducks under, and comes in and grapples me and takes me down to the ground, that's a position I don't want to be in. With a hook, the distance that a hook needs to take, it's a very round, half-circle distance, whereas a straight punch is faster to the target than a round punch. An uppercut for somebody who's, let's say, grappling or Wing Chun, the uppercut has an issue. It's definitely used in arts like Wing Chun, but the uppercut has an issue where if somebody gets in there, they could stop it very easily. And then my entire arm is trapped into my body, and this limb is completely useless. I only have this one. The person could be actually facing me now here, and this arm is completely useless, while they're hitting me in the side of the head, kicking my knee, and taking me down to the ground, and doing many different things that I'm sure you've seen on a number of other videos. So a punch, definitely, while they are effective, a punch has a position, has a proper use for that individual punch. If I'm way out here, and let's say this is my opponent, if I'm way out here, a jab really isn't going to do anything. A jab could be sort of a point of contact, to see what his reaction is to a jab. So then when I move in, I can expect what his reaction would generally be to a jab. An uppercut from out here is not going to do anything except get me in trouble. But an uppercut from in here, if we're both sort of tangled, an uppercut right here, that's going to do some damage. Or even here, I just come out and swing with a roundhouse, that's going to or a hook, that's going to do some damage. Even a jab could potentially do some serious damage. The issue then with the grappling sort of position is, how do I attack and defend at the same time? And with that, there is the Wing Chun punch, which gives you all of this distance of protection as you punch. And the only time you actually stretch out your arm all the way is after you've made contact. And with the stretch, you sort of take a step forward with your punch so that your entire body's weight is behind that punch. So the punches that are used, all of them, have a specific time and reference point, or time and position to make a punch. For example, if I happen to get in here and he pushes me into a defense in here, okay, I have one hand here that I'm connected with, and I'm trapping another hand underneath here. I can technically use a hook, a string here, but I'm keeping in contact. I am keeping him sort of trapped. I am essentially grabbing down this arm that I had contact with, and at the same time moving my body out of his way and punching him with this hook. So every punch has the best possible placement or positioning for where you would want to do the punch. And again, the first time you see anybody in front of a big punching bag, they just want to start wailing at it, punching as hard as they can, as if that force is really going to get them out of a situation. But if you're up against somebody who doesn't know how to express themselves or defend themselves, then yes, sure, any old punch, you could stand there, just wailing at a punching bag as hard as you want, or punching a speed bag as many times as you want. You could have the fastest hands in the world, but if you don't get yourself into position, and if you're in position and you use the wrong punch, number one, from here, for me to go like this, yes, I can use that punch, but if I don't execute it properly, it's really not the best position for me to be executing a hook or a roundhouse. An uppercut from here, from the side of his elbow, his shoulder, I'm going to come up against his shoulder. It's going to be here. It's going to graze right off the head. It's not going to be the proper punch. Whereas a short hook, yes, because the short hook would be coming over and be parallel with the opponent's shoulder and be able to connect definitively with the opponent's head. And you stretch out, and that kinks the neck, gets them off balance for you to go in with your next attack. But back to the actual punch itself. If you've been conditioning your hands for years and years and years, then this really does not pertain to you. But if you're sort of new to punching, you have to be very careful, especially if you have very deep knuckles, as I do, when you start to punch things, because you can do some pretty serious damage to your hands. And generally, how we start people with punching is very, very light movements. It's really just to get the hand coordinated, to get the hand-eye coordination, to allow the person to be able to judge distance, be able to judge the distance between where they are and where their target is, and then learn the proper motion. I definitely recommend using something like a rice bag, or you fill it with beans. It's a little canvas bag that you can probably buy on eBay or in many martial arts stores. And how we generally start is you just place the hand up there. You place the hand on it. You place the hand on it. You place the hand on it. When we do a vertical fist, once it's placed, we actually push through and roll, and you'll see that the wrist actually snaps. In fact, if you look at an outstretched hand, you'll notice this piece right here. This would be not a very good piece to actually hit with because it's structurally unsound. Whereas if you connect here and then push through, you'll see that at this position, these three knuckles are an extension of your overall arm. They're the most stable. So what we do is we actually make the first connection with this top finger, your pointer finger, index finger, and then push through. So that the bottom three fingers essentially are pushing a couple of inches deep into your opponent. because once you push into your opponent, you're actually taking their space. They're let's say in this space-time, in this actual particular space, and when you push into them, you're actually pushing them out of that space, essentially knocking them off balance, knocking the wind out of them, hopefully. And you know, that actual snapping also helps you to exert more force through. So you accomplish a number of things with just that one action after contact. So you come up to the punch, you make contact, and your elbow is still bent, and then you push through. So you come up, touch, push through. 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 For jabs and uppercuts and hooks and those types of punches, we generally use something like this, you know, swinging red ball, or my favorite training partner here. I can hit as hard as I want, but you know, again, you want to start off slowly. You really want to learn the actual distance, learn the connection points, learn the connection, place the fist on slowly. You could do this with shadow boxing very easily. Just start shadow boxing slowly. Just, you know, learn the extension of the arm. Feel it in how it actually feels with my arm extended. My arm extended very lightly. My arm extended with my shoulder pushed forward. You know, a roundhouse where I stop right here, and where I come through, and then I bring my fist back to my original position. And how an uppercut feels, and how you can pivot your body, swivel your hips, and push through. So that you do that in the air with shadow boxing. And you know, slowly move up to sort of punching a punching bag or a punching dummy, as I just showed you. Because again, you don't have to just wail on a punching bag. That doesn't mean you're a good puncher. That doesn't mean you're a good boxer, a good fighter. Just punching on a punching bag, there's more to it than that. You know, I always come back to, you know, without the proper stance, without the proper mobility, without the proper position, the best punch could essentially fail. It could do nothing, absolutely nothing. Whereas if you're very well trained in how you punch and how you connect, and you know your distance, you can measure distance. I can know that if I punch from here, I can actually go through this opponent's. I could push through this opponent. I could take this opponent out of that center line, out of their center of gravity. I could push them away, because I have actually practiced enough. I have done it enough times to know that from this distance, my measurement, calculations that are going on in my head are saying that my elbow is still stretched. That's all the additional extension I need. And if I add the extension of my shoulder forward, I could essentially take my fist where it connects here and push it all the way to the back of this piece of wood. And that's 3-4 inches. Now you do that in somebody's solar plexus, or you do that in somebody's chin, push them way back, they're off balance. Where you can then come back in and, you know, because you're in the proper position, you then have all of the tools that you may have learned through any other art, regardless of whether it's boxing, whether it's taekwondo, whether it's judo, jiu-jitsu, shoot wrestling, veil, it doesn't matter. Because A, you're in that position, B, you have to some degree trained your coordination and your distance judgment, your judgment of distance. Your punch or any tool that you have is readily available. So again, for the punch, you know, I would definitely recommend doing some sort of shadow boxing in the mirror. A, you know, to see when you do punch, where does your fist land? You know, if all you're doing is punching down here, why are you going to punch somebody only in the stomach? You know, you want to make sure that you punch it at people from different heights. I'm not that tall. So if I were to get into an altercation here in Europe, where everybody's 5'12", you know, 6 foot tall, 5'11", you know, 5'10", all of these Europeans are generally tall. If I happen to get into an altercation with somebody, I'm not going to be punching right here. This is not going to do me much good unless I just want to punch him in his chest, punch him in the shoulder. I have to, you know, also practice higher. So I have, my best training buddy is actually taller than me. Slightly to the highest he goes, but he's slightly taller than me. And I've filled it with sand, so he's weighing 350. So when I come in and I punch, I'm up against an opponent that is A, taller than me, and B, much heavier than I am. And as you progress through this sort of training, you don't necessarily need gloves at this point. In the beginning, I would highly recommend gloves. I have gloves always available. I generally do train with gloves, just to protect my knuckles, to protect my fingers, which have broken a few. With this, I still, even though you're touching it lightly and you're learning the speed, the distance, you're moving around, and you can add in your feet to actually step on the opponent's foot, add some elbows, shift out of the way, come back, shift out of the way, come back, kick and punch. You can even practice weight distribution so that you lift one leg up, you have all your weight on your back foot, and you're still practicing punch. It helps you with your balance, it helps you with the distribution of power as you punch, so that you don't, when you punch, you don't knock yourself off balance. There are a number of things that you can train, and you don't need to buy all of this equipment. You can hang a piece of paper up in the air, and this is used as a training aid for speed. This is used as a training aid for coordination, because a piece of paper hung from a piece of rope is not that easy to hit. But as you get very good at it, and you can go from just an open hand to a fist and actually make contact and hear that noise, then you know that A, your speed is very good, and B, you're working on your coordination, your distance, your judgment of distance. You're working on everything with a simple piece of paper, a simple rope hung from something. It's free, unless you got to buy the paper and the rope. A couple of pennies and you actually have a training aid. You don't need to have a Wing Chun dummy to actually train. This is actually a half dummy. You don't need to have, Bob the punching guy. You don't need to have this ball. If there's a little imagination, you can shadow box all you want. You could technically go up to, let's say, a brick wall or a wall in your house or the door to your bedroom, and lightly just get to that point. Just very lightly, just place the fist on it, so that you can feel how these knuckles feel when they make contact. You can feel and you can make the judgment. You can say, I know that if I'm, a foot and a half away from my opponent with my arm reach, my arm length, if I extend all the way with my shoulder, my elbow's completely through at the end, and if I'm doing the vertical punch and I snap my wrist at the bottom, at the end, I know that I can make contact and ultimately go 3 or 4 inches past that target. So that, in a nutshell, is basically a lot of information, but hopefully it gives you a little bit of a visual of how to begin and go about training for a very effective, very powerful punch. Combine it with my first video that I uploaded the other day, to where your positioning, your distance, and your mobility, you combine those two together and you're well on your way to being a very effective defensive and as well as offensive fighter. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope to see you, I appreciate all the comments you guys have given me, and I hope to see you on my next video. Thank you.